basically, Parks on the Air didn't exist in the United Kingdom prior to about 2019, at which point I got in touch with our American friends, and I ended up bringing it over. So let's see what it's all about, shall we? So in a nutshell, what you've got is a radio sports awards program, primarily centered around portable operation for those that go out and activate the parks. Obviously, for the hunters, you can very much do it from home. From county, regional, and nationally managed public lands. So basically, your big county parks, your national parks, your nationally managed conservation areas, etc., etc. And globally, POTA has grown significantly in the last 2 years with the addition of many more countries in addition to the United Kingdom. Because when I started, it was just the US and Canada. And it's really taken off globally over the last 2 years. So we've got a large set of references, not a massive rule set, and everybody's welcome to do it. There's no hassle. There's no requirement for continued activation or hunting. You can do as little or as much as you like. So let's just move it along a little bit, shall we? Oh, come on. Why have you frozen? Bear with me. Here we go. Right. Who is POTA? So Parks on the Air started as a small group of US-based volunteers off the back of something called National Parks on the Air, which they ran for a whole year. And basically they set up all the web-based infrastructure, the website, the Facebook groups, etc., etc., the Slack channels, which we'll come on to in a bit. They created a rule set, some infrastructure and a database. They then got people who basically look after what they call their call areas, which is basically the call sign numbers, and the social media elements. And now, from a global point of view, Parks on the Air is over 12,000 registered users, and it's growing every day. And hopefully, some of you tonight will take this on board and add to that number. So, how do you join? First of all, okay. So, basically, you go to the website. You register. You can either register with a traditional email and username and password, or you can register using an existing credential from either Google, AWS, or Facebook. If you use those methods, obviously POTA doesn't store your passwords, so the scheme or the database can authenticate over whatever credential you like to present, really. And then you can log in, check your dashboard at parksontheair.com. And once you're in there, you can have a look at the map. Now, this is just a small sort of screen grab of the map around where I live, centered on Sheffield. And you can find that map at the hyperlink there. And all you do is you must allow your browser to know where you are to get the best experience out of it. I know some people don't like doing that, but if you don't allow your browser to share location services, basically what will happen is when you open the map, it will center you in the middle of the Atlantic, not just offshore of Africa at 0.0. So it's a little confusing sometimes when you just staring at a blank bit of ocean, and then when you zoom out, then you appreciate where you are. That's just a little tip for you there. So just to allow you to view the map. So what do you need to activate a POTA reference? And what I mean by a POTA reference is just one of the places that we've got where you can go and play with your radios. So first of all, obviously, you need to be a licensed amateur. You need a radio that you can take portable, some form of antenna system, and some form of power or access to AC. and then you can either use a paper logger or an electronic logger, as do I. Anything that will export in an ADIF format, because when you submit your logs, you'll need to do it in ADIF format. And mainly a desire to go out and enjoy yourself with the radio. That's pretty much it, really. So the main requirement for activating a POTA part reference is just make 10 simplex QSOs in any one UTC day. You've got to be inside the boundaries of the park with both yourself and some of your equipment, including your antenna, on any band that your privileges permit. Now, obviously, band plans between countries differ, and band allocations, etc. So what the US guys like to have is that everybody operates in the general bands, because that gives most access to, obviously, most of their operators. Obviously, over here, that's not always possible, because our bands are somewhat limited or a bit more constrained than what theirs are. So just bear that in mind. You may see some, if you join the Facebook groups, etc., you may see some requests for people to activate within the general bands, but depending on the band, that's not always possible. There is no specific exchange. All you've got to do is obviously pass your call signs and log the time, the band, and the frequency that you operate on, and the mode. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, if you're like me, I just give a signal report as a matter of courtesy, really. And if things are, not so busy, you can stay and have a chat, have a bit of a rag chew. If not, if you've got a pile up, or if you're lucky enough to get a pile up, then it's up to you really as to how long you keep your exchanges. But it's fairly straightforward, and if you use one of the electronic loggers, it's fairly easy to capture the relevant information and to complete a successful log. And the only other thing I would say about logging is that when you do submit the log, you really need to choose the file name that's given there in the graphic, because otherwise the people that process the logs will have a bit of a hard time understanding where it's from, what park it pertains to, and when the log is relevant for. So one other thing that you may want to include in the email is if you're activating a park that spans multiple counties, and the Peak District is a prime example, because the Peak District, I think, covers 6 or 7 different counties. Just include the county that you're in at the time when you do the activation, because that will make a difference to how your login information is stored. So if you're thinking about, this is an old slide. If you're thinking about, how do you call CQ from an SSB point of view, that's fairly straightforward. It's basically as simple as calling CQ parks on the air, CQ parks on the air. This is give your call sign, activating park reference, blah, blah, blah. You can even give the park name and just carry on. If you've got a nice swanky radio that does voice recording, that's really nice, because sometimes it gets really, really thin calling CQ in that manner over and over and over again. And to attract a little bit of attention, what they have is they do have a thing on the website called the spotter, which you can, as you can see in the graphic, you can actually self-spot yourself or get a friend to spot you with your call sign details and the frequency, the part reference, and there you go. Really, that will appear and is updated in real time on the website, and there are people that watch that like a hawk. It's also propagated into Slack, which is the collaboration software that we use, and it really aids and abets the successful activation of a park. I know when I've been trying to activate a park and work the States, there's a guy called Fred Baird, and he always tries to get a hold of me, and he's in Central Ohio, and he 9 times out of 10 he can get me even when propagation's bad, because he's got one of these massive antenna farms at the bottom of his garden. So he can really pick you out of the weeds when conditions are bad. Similarly, for CW, you can actually get spotted automatically via the reverse beacon network, so long as you follow the format that's indicated there. I mean, I don't do CW. I had to learn it a long time ago, but it's not something that I've been able to rekindle in these few short years in getting my full license. So because I'm busy in lots of other things as well as radio. So it's on the to-do list or the bucket list, whatever. But for me at the moment, I just don't have the time to do it. But again, if you do operate CW, I know plenty of guys in the UK at the moment that are going out and working CW, and they're getting everywhere, and having some really good success with their activation. So that's just a way of identifying yourself on the reverse beacon network, etc. So this allows a little bit of something that for people that perhaps haven't operated in a portable capacity before, why would you enjoy it? Well, typically, if anybody that lives in a modern housing estate, I don't operate HF from home anymore because my noise level is S7 on a good day. So, when you get out into the countryside, you've got a very low noise floor. And obviously the scenery that you're in at the time is fantastic, as long as it's not raining. But what I would say is that every activation comes with its own unique challenges in terms of the terrain, space constraints, the weather, particularly over here, and sometimes accessibility. I went to try and have a go at one of the parks in the Peak District about a month ago, and because of the problems I have with my ankles at the moment, I can't walk very far. And if the terrain is particularly uneven, then I really do struggle to walk. So yeah, some of these places, particularly if you're up in the high country, they might be a bit difficult to get to. They also might be a bit difficult to play radio in because obviously Lathgale, that's the one in question, is quite a steep-sided valley. So if you wanted to go in on a footpath, you'll be down on the valley floor. So propagation down there is going to be difficult at best. So it's really a case of having to think about where you're going first and planning accordingly. Maybe doing a bit of a recce before you actually take the radio with you, and maybe you have to pass on that particular park and find somewhere else to go and play. But this, like I say, there's plenty of others. We've got over 500 in the system in England alone at the moment. So there's plenty of options. But but working portable, what it does do is it allows you to identify any weak areas in your equipment, in your rig for portable operation, and obviously you can really tweak on the options that you've got. So I mean, for myself, I've got a homemade battery box that I use that's solar compatible. I've got a number of antenna options, but typically I work a DX Commander Expedition system, the all-band vertical, because it just means that I can flip between the bands at the drop of a hat and not have to worry about retuning, etc. And obviously, the more you operate, the better you become as an operator, and your skills and your voice procedure becomes better and better. And obviously, you'll get a name for yourself, and people start looking for you. And you'll make friends all over the world. Obviously, I bet a lot of you are already big DX chasers and got lots of contacts out there already. But for somebody like me that doesn't do a lot of radio in his spare, in his normal day-to-day spare time, I have to make special considerations for this. Just at the weekends. For those of you that can, operate your radios whenever you like from home, it will expand your horizons just that little bit further. And you will find that people come looking for you. That's the good thing, when you spark up on a frequency, and if you've spotted, you can even schedule using the spotter. people will come and find you. So one of the things that drew me to Parks on the Air initially is because of the situation I've got with my ankles. I would have loved to do summits on the air because historically I've always been very, very active, a bit of a mountain goat in my youth, and you'd always find me up the hills at the weekend, but I can't do that anymore because of the physical limitations. So Parks on the Air for me now allows me to basically drive a car into a park and set up my radio and play it. And a lot of the places that are in the system do have car parks, so you can just rock up, get out the car, and set up a modest station and go from there really. And even just working from the back seat of the car with an Ham Pro stick on the roof. I've been into Germany. I've been all over Europe, and so long as you plan accordingly and spread your options, then you 9 times out of 10 you'll activate a park. I mean, on that particular occasion, I had 2 meters as well as I think it was 20 meters on the car from one of the local reservoir parks around here, and HF was a little bit thin, but with the help of club mates on 2 meters, as long as you're not working through a repeater, you can attract a bit of local interest as well. So there you go. As long as you're planning accordingly, it's fine. And you can even go as far as sort of planning a multiple park activation within the day. So like you can do these rapid deployment things where it's a bit like, was it the Radars Challenge, where you can move from park to park and basically set up, activate the park, de-rig your kit, move to the next park and carry on. And it's all a bit of fun. But the other good thing about this system, which I thought was pretty good, is if you've already got logs for working a particular location historically, and either it's a new park on the system or you've only just joined POTA, you can actually submit the log from that particular operation, be it last weekend, last year, 2 years ago, whatever. And it all counts. So that's a nice thing to have. And the stats pages, which we'll see in a short while, they're under continuous development. I mean, I can't keep pace with with how fast the Americans are developing the back end system, because it changes every week. It really is moving fast. And the other thing is, everybody's welcome, all the modes. You can even use FT8. There you go. I swore. You can even use FT8 to activate a park if that's your poison. So once you start to get involved, then there's a number of awards that you can work towards, either all the parks in a particular county or a park in every county in the realm. Or you get an activation achievement award at 10 parks, and then it just multiplies from there. Really, there's quite a few to go at. Personally, I'm not that bothered about a certificate. I don't go chasing awards on QRZ.com or any of the other logging sites. It's not something that particularly floats my boat, but I do know that a lot of people enjoy that kind of thing. So there are awards available should you appreciate that kind of thing. And there's even specific awards for park to park activity. There's an award for repeat offending. So if you just activate the same park all the time, there's an award for you. There's an award for repeat offenders, etc. And some of the awards are quite quite tastefully done. These are a lot of the American awards. We're a bit behind in in the UK with creating our award templates, but some of the awards that are on offer, the certificates do sort of come across anyway. It's just stuff specific to the UK that we've got to come up with. And I must make the point at this stage that I only administer the G region, which is England. There's a guy in Wales, Jason Simons, and a guy up in Scotland, Patsy. I felt that it was appropriate that operators from each of the individual home nations were responsible for their own patch. So I was when I set this thing up, I was keen to get some recruits for the other nations of the United Kingdom as well. At this moment in time, Northern Ireland isn't covered, and we're still looking for somebody for that. So I've talked a little bit about how it works for people going portable and activating these places, but how does it work for people who just want to get involved from home, or even just go out portable, maybe in a non-POTA location? You can still participate by being a hunter. Again, you just create an account. You don't have to submit your logs, which is the nice thing about being a hunter. All you have to do is make contact with people that are activating. And then when they submit their logs, obviously, then your stats will come through when the logs are processed. Just bear with me a moment. I'm starting to get a little bit dry. If there's any questions, just at any stage, please do shout up, and I'll do my best to answer. Right. Okay. So let's go back. So there you can see the stats page, which is basically my hunted parks. I mean, typically I work as an activator. It's not something I don't normally set up and hunt people, and I like to go out and be at the sharp end. So there you can see the other parks that I've actually been in touch with whilst I've been activating. So my park to park activity counts as hunting activity. I mean, most of these activations that I've done have been on voice or phone, as it's stated there. I have done data on my last activation when I was doing the Peak District. I thought I'd give data modes a bash, and that was quite interesting. But typically, I would be an activator and not a hunter. So why would you want to be a hunter? Well, basically, you're helping us out. You know, you're helping other amateurs to reach their goals within the scheme. It's pretty easy. You know, you can make a contact and spin the dial. I wouldn't say it's contesting style, because POTA isn't a contest. But you know, if a guy's got a pile up, he doesn't want to be engaged in a 10-minute rag chew. You know, just when I'm activating, I try and have at least a couple of lines with somebody, just so that it's a bit more meaningful than a simple contest exchange. So just bear that in mind if you are hunting and somebody's got a pile up. It'd be nice to have a bit of a chat, but that might not be the right time. The stats that you'll get are very detailed on your activity. As I said, no log submissions for hunters, and obviously the more you operate, the better you'll become. I've already said you make more friends all over the world, and you can do it as much or as little as you like. You don't even have to register. All you've got to do is take a look at the spotter page, move around the dial, and see who you can pick up. And it's really that simple. And as it says there, if you can hear somebody calling a park to park or whatever, then just tip the operator the wink and suggest that they listen out for that particular call sign, because park to parks are quite valuable for us. So just a few tips for anybody considering doing poulter in a hunting capacity. Just check the scheduler for planned activations. Follow the social media systems such as Facebook and Slack for notifications of people activating, and watch the poulter spotter on the website. Like I said, we use this thing called Slack, which is a piece of collaboration software. It's a little bit like SharePoint. It's got a chat facility. You can exchange documents, etc., etc. It's quite useful for getting in touch with people, and it's something I would I recommend you use that if you're going to take this up. So you can use phonetics if you wish. Obviously, that will depend on the conditions. I know I prefer to use NATO phonetics, but obviously there may be times when the other station's just not here and you're using the standard NATO alphabet, and that's when you have to get a little bit creative. Observe the DX code of conduct. So I wasn't really sure what this was. I think it's something to do with the ARRL, obviously. So if you're aware of it already, that's great. If not, just Google it and check it out. And if you do find somebody that's not on the spotter, then give them a spot. Every little helps. You can even log it on a cluster with a comment, poulter, and then the part reference. And again, as a hunter, you qualify for awards after a certain amount of participation. So what are the challenges if you're going to go out and do a bit of parks on the air activation? Well, obviously, in the last few months, we've had a lot of terrestrial and solar weather. Excuse me. Yeah, the weather's been really up and down, and I'm sure you're aware of that. And a lot will play into, a lot of that will play into how and when you can go out portable. I mean, I don't particularly relish going out and sitting in the rain. Sorry. I don't particularly relish going out and sitting in the rain. I'd much prefer to go out and sit in the sunshine. Sometimes, needs must. And obviously the solar weather at the moment is a bit naff, with the occasional flare up. But I mean, I tend not to look at those things. If I want to go and play with my radio, I'll go and play with my radio. And if the solar weather's rubbish, then it's just another challenge, and it just makes it that little bit more rewarding when you get somebody the other side of the Atlantic or wherever, really. Something that we have to deal with is gear failure as and when. Now, I remember being up on the top of Marytown Low by the Mermaid's Pool, and my radio just shut down completely because the power system failed. And I found out that because I was working from a mag mount, again, the 20-meter mag mount on the roof, I'd got RF coming back into the car. It was actually knocking out my my battery, the power management system that I've got on my battery. So I wound the power down, I reset everything, and I was able to carry on. But it phased me for a little bit. That's actually on one of the YouTube videos on my channel. I think I actually put that in there as something that happened. Obviously, depending on where you are, and your access to the internet, that will determine or not whether you're actually able to self-spot. So that's why it's always useful to schedule where you're going to be and the time, etc. I missed one. So local QRM. Now, if if anybody's ever been operating portable and found themselves the victim of somebody keying up over them, tuning up over them, or whatever, I'm sure it's a shared experience, because it's something that does happen. I don't know why they do it; it just happens. And obviously, some of the other forms of QRM that I've personally experienced at weekends, but in particular, are the contest stations tuning up on you and then just flattening you. I think the last time I did a voice port activation, again, this is another video on my website. I was basically having to QSY every 5 minutes because the foreign contest stations were just tuning up wherever they felt like it and flattening my signal. So it's really it really makes it difficult and a bit of a challenge to work a portable station when you've got all that going on. So what I would say is if you're able to do a midweek activation, because obviously then you've not got the daytime activations. Don't suffer from contests in particular, well, very much at all, really. So yeah, just be aware of that. You know, there are malicious people out there, and just be ready to deal with it when it occurs. Don't feed the trolls. Okay, so spot we've done. Okay, difficult park staff. We tend not to get this over here in the places we operate, but I am aware that certain people have inquired to their local council about setting up a radio station in a park and being met with all kinds of red tape, because they automatically assume that you're going to set something up like Jodrell Bank in the middle of the park, and then you need to come up with risk assessments for this, risk assessments for that, barriers and tape and all blah blah blah. So I just my only advice in that regard would be just to don't overstate what you're doing. If you can operate from your vehicle, operate from your vehicle. If you can operate without putting a massive mast up, do that. As I say, I tend to use a DX Commander when I can, and if I can't, I'll use a hamstick on the top of a car. And I've had success with both approaches. Just be aware that there are people out there that take their jobs very, very seriously, and as long as you're polite and I'll just leave it there. So I've already mentioned contest stations. I don't really think I need to mention them again. Obviously, they are a love-hate thing within amateur radio. And the other thing you've got to contend with is nets. Now, obviously, there isn't a published set of frequencies where people like to run their nets. So you might spark up on a frequency, and the next thing you know, you've got somebody shouting, is this frequency in use? And then you've got a net running on your frequency. That's just something to bear in mind. And if I were you, I'd just QSY, find another gap and republish or respot yourself and carry on. It's not worth the hassle. Some more tips for you if you're going to embark on parks on the air is basically safety first. Obviously, we've got some new regulations now in place, some new license conditions that require us to take into consideration our emissions. So I think for a portable point of view, we're going to have to see how that pans out, because it could mean that we do have to start taking pins and tape and stuff like that out to keep people away from antennas, or to make it obvious to people that there is a hazard. But then again, we're operating portable. I wouldn't expect anybody to be operating in excess of 100 watts in a popular public place. It's I certainly wouldn't do it. I don't have the kit to do it anyway, but I know that there are people that do that kind of thing. So it's just a case of if you're going to do that, then take appropriate measures to make sure that the people who are around don't stray into your equipment while you're transmitting. Basically, make yourself a checklist of stuff. I must admit, I'll hold my hands up. I don't have a checklist. Most of my stuff's in a bag, and if it's not in the bag, it gets left at home. So yeah, just if you like that kind of organizational thing, keep a checklist. Keep an eye on the weather. A weather radio is something that's more akin to our North American friends, but particularly if you're going out into the Peak District or the Yorkshire Dales, or maybe Dartmoor, for instance, or Snowdonia, or the lakes, just keep a weather eye open and be aware that things do change at the drop of a hat in those environments. Okay, keep the data that you need at your fingertips. So the reference of the park, where you are in terms of your county, grid square. A lot of people ask for WAB squares, so maybe that's something that you could also provide, and the Maidenhead grid as well. So just keep in mind that there are other operators out there that might want a little bit something more than just a standard exchange. Just keep that in mind, and just be aware of any timings around where you are. Obviously, if you're going into something like a country park that's got dedicated hours for opening and closing, you don't want to be in there past closing time and not be able to get out of the park. That go down well with your family. So make sure that you're aware of the timings, and also make sure that you're aware of where best to operate from. Okay, keep an eye on your band conditions and your battery, your TX power, how long you're activating for. All these things make or have an impact on the success of your activities, really, particularly with your TX power, and if you're operating from a small battery. If anybody wants to know about batteries, this is one of my side projects is battery and solar power for amateur radio. So I believe I'm going to get mullered into doing a talk on that at some stage as well, Simon. So yeah, just bear in mind, how long you've been operating. You don't want to be mid-queue so and run out of power. Okay, be clear on the rules. Consider where you are, the bylaws that are in effect in that place. I do know that some of the royal parks don't allow noise from electronic devices. It doesn't specifically state that you can't operate a radio from there, but what it says is that it's all around noise abatement. So if you're going to run from a royal park in particular, just do it on the QT, and maybe consider using headphones so that you're not creating a lot of noise. And obviously consider the fact that you may be in a place where other things are happening at the same time. So if you're going into a country park and there's a massive festival on, or a band, a music festival or whatever, that might have an impact. The noise might have an impact on what you're trying to achieve. So just be aware of that as well. And the main thing is just keep at it, be persistent, and be flexible. Change, roll with the flow, or whatever. So some additional things that you might not consider in addition to your radio gear, for when you're operating outside. So you've got bug repellent, insect-proof clothing, mosquito nets for your head, particularly if you're in Scotland in the summer. You can't see for the midges in front of your face sometimes. And obviously, the other side of that is the shade. Make sure you've got sunscreen if you've not got any shade, or take some shade with you in the form of a gazebo or a pop-up tent. Nobody wants to come home looking like a lobster. Obviously, any mapping aids that you might need as part of your activation if you're going, if you're decamping from the vehicle and heading out on foot, make sure that you've got your nav aids with you. I'd always suggest a printed map. Having a phone with an app on it is all well and good, but if your phone runs out of power, you've got no nav aids. So always take a map with you and a compass, and know how to use it. So next thing is, obviously, if you plan on operating in the dark, make sure you've got some form of illumination, either by a headlamp or some other kind of lantern, be it battery operated or whatever. And make sure you take a first aid kit, because you might not have an accident, but somebody else that's in the vicinity might. And obviously, it just makes common sense to have a first aid kit. Most people have them in the cars. I've got several dotted around in different places. I've got a big one in the car. I've got a smaller one. I don't hike anymore. I actually go bike camping now, and I have one in my biking gear. I've got another one somewhere else dotted around, just to put in a pocket if I'm going for a little walk, just down the road or whatever. So make sure you've got a rudimentary first aid kit with you, and don't forget to take something to stay hydrated. Oh yes, stay hydrated, not dehydrated, and something to eat. Obviously, depending on how long you're going for. And if you're using AC power, make sure you've got a long cord, because you'd be surprised where the AC power might be, and you might not be able to get to it. So if you do plan on using AC power, make sure that you've got enough extension cables and multi-gang plugs and whatever to facilitate your needs. Okay, this is me. I'm actually participating in the UK AC at this point in time in a place called Coombe Gibbets, which is in the North Wessex Downs area of outstanding natural beauty. I didn't go down there to play poker specifically. I was working in Newbury at the time, and I was actually in the club contesting team. I thought, well, I'll get up on a local hill and earn a few points for the club. So that's the car on top of Coombe Gibbet. You can actually see the gibbet just here. That black thing there, that's the gibbet where they used to hang people. But you can see there that I'm using I think that's my 12 element LFA clone. It's about, what's that? That's about 10 feet AGL. And I did quite well in that particular contest from there, because I was about 1,000 feet up. And I got contacts all over the place, so including France. That was on 70 cents. So yeah, if you always consider, if you're going out there and doing one thing, you can always submit your log for POTA if you're actually in a POTA location at the same time. So yeah, that was me, and I think I actually did that before I became the admin. So that log was submitted in retrospect. So come on, go back. Right. So this is a friend of mine, good friend of mine, one of my club mates. This is Paul, M0PJA, active in the Peak District National Park, from the road that runs along the edge of Stanage in the Peak District. I'm sure some of you will be familiar with that location. Again, they're running a combination of antennas. Obviously, they've got the hand stick on the tripod there, and I believe they've got a 2-meter collinear on the mast off the back of the car as well. So yeah, that was a good day out for those guys, and they got some good contacts, including some DX across to the States as well. So this is just a slide showing the North American guys. They're out in all weathers. Obviously, their weather is a bit more extreme than ours. So obviously, you've got the Canadian station on the left in the snow, and the American station on the right there from Sterling State Park in Michigan. So you can basically participate in the POTA community on social media. So we're on Facebook. There are actually 2 Facebook groups that I'm aware of. There's the global one, which has everybody from the US in there and elsewhere. And we've also got one for the United Kingdom as well. And what you'll find is in the United Kingdom one, there's, even if you're the a few of our American friends have joined in there, particularly Jason Johnson, who runs the scheme. You know, it's I was a little bit reticent to set this group up, but there was a lot of call for it, and I think it's worked quite well. There doesn't seem to be that much of a divide between the two groups. And what I tend to see is a lot of people that have joined the UK one have actually joined the global one as well. So I would make that point. If you're going to join one, join the other to get the most out of it. We're also on Slack, which, as I've said, is it's a real-time chat and collaboration piece of software. You can download Slack for free, and then obviously you just need to subscribe to the relevant Parks on the Air channels, and then you can start to engage with people directly as they obviously come online and what have you. And many activators are also on Twitter and Instagram. I mean, I'm on Twitter, but I tend not to. I'm not one of these people that, you know, tweets every day or every 5 minutes about, you know, what they're eating or whatever like that. I am quite active on Facebook, and as I say, I'm also on Instagram, and I also have my own YouTube channel. I try and get about 2 videos a month out on the YouTube channel. I'm not particularly active, and at the moment, you know, it's just a little bit of a hobby thing on YouTube. I'm not one of these professional YouTubers, but I tend to put some of the, you know, the more meaningful things that I'm doing on there. And, you know, some people like it, you know, and some people don't. It's their own. So some updates for 2021 then. I've already mentioned that, that globally, Parks on the Air continues to grow. We, as of last week, when I did the slide deck, we were at in excess of 12,000 members. That's a massive increase in the membership. I think it was about 5,000 when I started, so it's growing all the time. And particularly, you'll see every week Jason puts a post on the global Facebook page acknowledging all the new joiners, and that list is, you know, always more than 50 new operators wherever they are. For England, and that's all I can really speak for, we've got 250 plus now registered members. We had 39 in November of 2019, which was when I did my first club talk over in Worksop. I showed the picture previously of Paul M0PJA. He's been acknowledged as an outstanding porter operator. Now, at the time that picture was taken, Paul was suffering really badly with his health, to the point where he couldn't really get about. And one of my other club mates, Gary M0ONI, Gary basically helped Paul out and about with his radio gear. Gary put all the antennas up so that Paul could sit in the car and basically operate his radio. And for that, and to say that Paul was in such a state with his health, he was going out and doing Parks on the Air in that manner, and he was also helping me to publish and publicise Parks on the Air in the various UK radio medias, such as Radcom and what's the other one? Oh, the news. Yeah, is it Southgate News? Southgate ARC News, whatever. Paul is basically my publicist. So for that reason, we gave Paul an award as an outstanding porter operator. This is like a you know, you get a unique certificate. There's not a lot of these floating around, and he got one for basically going the extra mile. And you know, I really tip my hat off him to what he achieved there. So around about the same time, Wales, which is GW obviously, in Scotland, GM, they were added last year, and there's 100 more parks available in those locations. So if you're planning any holidays to Wales or to Scotland, then please do consider taking your radio and looking up a porter park. And obviously, since my last talk, many more new countries have joined from all over the world. One of the other jobs I've got for Parks on the Air is I'm the guy that helps set up the other countries. So somebody will contact Jason about becoming a country admin. Jason will refer them to me, and then I will give them a spreadsheet, tell them how to fill it in, and then the spreadsheet comes back to me. I review it, make sure it's in the right format, etc., and then submit it into the system. At the minute, there's that much stuff going on that it's really heavily backlogged, and we're looking to, or Jason's looking to recruit many more people for his support team, because literally there just aren't enough hands on deck at the moment to cope with all the change and all the organic growth within the membership and the country participation. The mapping system is now up and running, and it works across everywhere. As I've said, just be mindful if you are going to use the map, it's going to plop you in at 0.0 in the middle of the Atlantic, just off Africa, obviously. So bear that in mind. As we're going to see, the new website is adding functionality all the time, and in not very long, we are also looking at self-log submission, which should take a lot of the burden off the call area loggers, because obviously, as you can imagine, with 12,000 people now registered, if they all put a log in, there's 10 call areas. That's a lot of logs to process over a weekend or whatever. And these guys, they're all volunteers. They've all got day lives. They've got families, etc., and day jobs. So don't be surprised if your log isn't in the system the day after you've sent it in, because, as I said, it's very, very busy at the minute, and people are really, really struggling to keep up with it. There we go. That's me. So I mentioned the recent activation of the Peak Districts on using voice. So this is me basically sat outside my tent at Haddon Grove Farm near Monash. And as you can see, I've got my 706 Mark II-G. I've got my battery box. I've got my power meter, and I've got my laptop for logging. You can't see my microphone at the moment because it's probably over here on the table, but that's all plugged into a DX Commander Expedition, and that's as easy as it gets. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you, I'm going to stop the presentation. I'm just going to show you the website, if that's okay. Simon, how are we doing for time? Right. Okay, can we all see that?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the new look Pots on the Air website using the URL poter.app. It used to be parksontheair.com before, and if you still put that in, it will take you to the old dashboard and redirect you over here. But as you can see, this is like the landing page. We've got a search facility up the top. You've got your spots. If you want to make a spot, you can look at the schedule activations. You've got your call sign information here. Once you click that, you can view your profile, view your rewards, view your stats. Just have a look at my stats. I must admit, I'm not a particularly busy activator. Like I say, I don't have a lot of free time to play radio, so this is pretty much my progress so far, which is pretty poor, to be fair. But there you go. I mean, there are people with a lot more time on their hands with a lot more activity. So I've got 10 activations, 11 attempts at 8 unique parks with 171 QSOs. That's my activated. And for hunted, I've got 6 QSOs with 5 unique parks. So you can see it gives you a list out of all the bands that we could work, the different styles of mode where we can work. Obviously, most of my QSOs tend to be on phone, but I have done a few on data. And as I say, as long as you don't use a repeater to get your logged QSOs, you can use anything. You can use any method that you want to get those QSOs. There we go. So let's just have another look at some of the other stats. So you've got your activations. So that lists all of the places where I've operated from. As you can see, the one that I showed you in the picture, G0173, North Wessex Downs area of outstanding natural beauty. That still ranks as the best score ever in a contest. So let's show you a logbook. This is just a full list of everybody that you've worked and when you've worked them. And obviously, I'll just point out here that you've got 2 different columns here. You've got the station and the operator. Obviously, if you're thinking about doing a club activation using a club call sign, you can you can break out your own call sign and identify yourself for that particular activity, if that's something that you wanted to do. Okay, so just looking over here then, you've got the add spot function. So if you can hear somebody calling park to, CQ park to park, go to the add spot and it automatically brings up the add spot function. All you've got to do is put in the frequency where you heard them in kilohertz, the park reference, which you'll be able to hear them spouting, and comments that you might want to put in there, i.e. the mode or some other salient information. And then all you do is click spot, and then that will be added to the spot list in real time and will show up. Come on, wakey in this view. Let's just have a look at who's on the air right now. So you've got stations in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Indiana, Colorado, Texas, Indiana, Oregon, California, Ontario, and Texas. So there's not a lot going on right now, but then again, it is a school night or a school day over there. So of a weekend, this screen is very, very active, and it is as you can see there, data is refreshed all the time. So using the scheduler, you can actually, come on, wakey, where are you? Have I found a feature? Found a feature. Oh, here we go. Schedule activations. But this is basically the plan or upcoming activations with dates and times of bands, where they're going to be, etc., who's going to be there. So we've got Jeff Pascoe, G4ELZ, is going to be in the Somerset Levels. When's he going to be there? That's today. Why is that still there? Oh well. Anybody else? Here we go. Right. This is tomorrow. This is from tomorrow onwards. If there's anybody in the UK planning anything. Doesn't look like it. No. Oscar Echo. But you can see the idea. You can schedule a date and time in a part where you plan on being, and this gives people an idea of when it's going to be busy, etc. I've spoken about the map, so we'll have a look at the map. Okay, remember what I said about being in the middle of the Atlantic? So this is the parks around here. Look, lo and behold, I've got a park right next door. And there's one to the north. This one over here. So if I click on the yellow dot, I get the information about the name of the park and the reference. And if I click on the more info, it gives me some metadata about the place. Who's been there, etc., etc. Okay. So if you want to have a look at the park list for a particular country, obviously let's look at England. So now this bit I know is broken and it's in the system to be fixed. Oh, there we go. So yeah, that's all of the references that's in Nottinghamshire. You can see it's quite easy to figure out. If you know where you're going to be by way of travel or whatever, you can very easily figure out if there's any parks in the vicinity and plan your operations accordingly. Now, top activators. Just look at these numbers. Stupid numbers. These guys take it really, really seriously. Really puts me to shame. But you can see that these guys are putting in a lot of travel and a lot of time on the radio from these places. Maybe, I don't know, if you like league tables and you're into a bit of competition, then maybe we'll see you on these activation league tables, but they'll not find me there, unfortunately. And again, you've got one for hunters. You've got FAQs, probably the least read page, and probably the one that everybody needs to read. So I would recommend, after joining the scheme, if you're that way inclined, give this page a damn good read, because everything that you're going to want to know will be in there. Okay. Got your rules and your conduct, fairly straightforward. Community resources. So basically, if you want to do an activators or get some information about activation, you can have a look at YouTube or get a PDF file. Similar, if you want to be a hunter, you know, you can have a look on YouTube or get a PDF file. There's a link to Slack. Now, because I've got the application installed, it's actually opened the app on my laptop, and you can't actually see it at the moment because obviously I'm sharing a specific window. All right. Right, can you, has the screen refreshed yet? Can you see the Slack app? Right, I've selected the... Okay, yeah, see that now, can't you? So this is Slack. So if you've used Discord, it's a little bit like that, without the voice channels. So you've got a number of channels that you can subscribe to. A number of these channels are locked for administrative purposes, but the two that I'd sort of like draw your attention to would be the main Parks on the Air one here and Polter Sports. Now, unless you like being kept awake at night with your phone going ping, 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 I wouldn't subscribe to that because that is quite busy, okay? And that is basically just reflecting what's on the website. But the Parks on the Air channel, it says. There we go. This is just an open chat for people to exchange information, okay? If anybody wants any information on that, then reach out to me directly, and I can hook you up. Okay, right. Let's go back to yeah. Yeah, and obviously I've mentioned the Facebook groups. So let's Okay, so this is the parts on the United Kingdom group. Basically, I administer it. There's a few moderators. Just a couple of questions to join the group. And once you're in there, you can see everything that's going on. Now, what we have found is that some of the places that I thought might be inclusive of the system turned out to be private property. So I'm in the process of having those places shut down by Jason. But see here, what I would recommend is if you're going to go out and start playing parts on the air, tell people about what you're doing. Help create a bit of interest. And so we've got Gary here that visited G330 earlier today, Hardington Moor National Nature Reserve, and basically he's just set up a pole in the middle of the nature reserve. Is that KX2 or KX3? Something, one of those tiny little radios, I don't know. And he's obviously getting some activity. So there you go. The other things, just basically general. I use it for updating the membership on things that are happening. We had a bit of a spat when the first lockdown was on, because I was basically advising people not to go out and play parts on the air, and there were certain individuals that thought that that was infringing on their civil liberties. But there we go. So yeah, it's a good place to ask questions, good place to share information, etc., etc. So I'd recommend that if you're going to take part in parts on the air, join at least this group, and then also consider joining the US group as well.
You got 2 requests there, Andy.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, one will be me. I didn't realise you had a UK group, Andy.
All right. Well, that's fine. Yeah.
I was on the main one. Didn't realise there was a UK one.
Yeah. And the other one's me, because I didn't know about the UK one either.
That's quite all right. Well, that's as you've just seen, you are now accepted into the fold. So there we go. Thanks very much for the participation, guys. Much appreciated. Right. So let's get back to the presentation. Where are you? I've got that many screens on the go.
Just a couple of comments, if I may, Andy. While you're waiting, first of all, pass on my regards to Mr. Archer, a fellow scouter. Not seen him for a while. But secondly, what I found interesting is submitting the logs. I've done 3 parks in Wales, and obviously my call sign changes from 2E to 2W. And the person doing the logs found that a little interesting, getting his head around the letter changing. Interestingly, though, first time around it didn't seem to be an issue, but just a bit of a comment, really.
Right, I just put the presentation back on the screen, but what I will do is I'll take you back to the website because there's actually something I can show you that I need to point out, which I haven't actually covered yet, and that is the use of multiple call signs. So bear with me, and I will. I can find it. Where are you? Okay, right. So when you are moving around the 4 corners of the United Kingdom, obviously, as you've mentioned, you have to change your call sign. So what you can do is you can actually attribute your or attribute those call signs to your account as well.
Yep.
Now this has all changed since the last time I saw it. That's where it is. So what you can do is, using this screen here, you can actually add other call signs using this button. So if you wanna, say for instance, I was to go to Wales, I could put in GW1AW, add that call sign into here, and give it a start date and an end date, and go from there. And then that log that you put in will then get attributed to your stats,